The sun was setting behind the tall mahogany trees that surrounded Kazimba Primary School. The orange glow bathed the dusty playground in warmth, and the last echoes of children's laughter faded as one by one they hurried home with their parents. Teachers closed their offices, the watchman locked the rusty gate, and silence slowly claimed the compound. But in the corner of a wooden bench near the classrooms sat Amara, a quiet 9-year-old girl with curious eyes. She clutched her school bag tightly against her chest, waiting for her parents. They had promised, as they always did, to pick her up on time. Minutes stretched into hours. The schoolyard grew emptier and emptier until only the crickets and the whistling wind kept her company. "Maybe Mama is delayed at the market," Amara whispered to herself. She tried to sound brave, but her voice quivered. Deep inside, she knew this was not the first time. Her parents, busy chasing money, often forgot her needs. To them, business deals, social gatherings, and endless phone calls always came first. Amara was used to waiting, but never this long. As darkness thickened, fear crept into her heart. Shadows stretched across the compound, and the distant bark of stray dogs made her shiver. She thought about the tales her grandmother used to tell about spirits that roamed after sunset, about children who wandered into the forest and never returned. The gate rattled, and the old watchman, Mr. Cato, walked out. His lantern flickered weakly as he approached. His eyes widened when he saw Amara sitting there. "Child, what are you still doing here?" he exclaimed, startled. Amara stood, trembling. "Papa and Mama. They didn't come." The old man sighed deeply. "Careless parents," he muttered under his breath. He pitied her, but his own duties ended with locking the gate. "I cannot keep you here all night," he said. "Come, I will take you to the roadside. Perhaps they will remember." And so Amara followed him through the dark. Every step echoed with questions she could not answer. Why did they forget me? Did they even care? What if something happens before they come? That night was only the beginning of a chain of events that would change everything, not only for Amara, but for her parents as well. Mr. Cato's lantern flickered as he walked slowly along the dusty road outside the school. Amara followed closely behind, her tiny feet dragging on the gravel. The night air was chilly, and the buzzing of crickets filled the silence. "Your parents should have been here by now," Mr. Cato said, his voice heavy with disapproval. How could they forget their own child? Amara bit her lip. She wanted to defend them, but the truth weighed on her heart. This was not the first time. Sometimes they were late to school meetings. Sometimes they forgot to pack her lunch. And now they had forgotten her altogether. At the roadside, Mr. Cato stopped. "I can't take you further, child. My duty is to guard the school. I will leave you here, where your parents usually pass. Surely they will come." Fear gripped Amara, but she nodded. The old watchman gave her a gentle pat on the shoulder, then turned back. She was alone. The street was nearly deserted. Shops had closed, and only a few flickering lamps lit the road. A stray dog barked in the distance. Amara hugged her bag tightly and sat on a small stone by the roadside. She imagined what her parents might be doing, perhaps still laughing with friends, perhaps busy bargaining at the market, perhaps even at home, forgetting completely that she existed. As minutes turned to an hour, Amara's eyes filled with tears. She whispered to herself, "Maybe they don't love me enough. Then came the sound of footsteps. Out of the shadows appeared an old woman, dressed in a faded wrapper and carrying a basket of vegetables. Her face was wrinkled, but her eyes shone with warmth. "Child, why are you alone at this hour?" she asked, her voice soft but concerned. "They didn't come for me," Amara replied, wiping her tears. The woman shook her head sadly. "Careless, careless," she muttered. "The world is dangerous, my child. Many things lurk in the dark." She sat beside Amara and offered her a roasted groundnut. The little girl hesitated, then accepted. The kindness felt like a ray of light in her darkness. "Life will teach your parents a lesson," the woman said gently. "But until then, you must be strong. Children like you, forgotten by those who should care most, often grow into people of great strength." Her words sank deep into Amara's heart. For the first time that night, she felt less afraid. Suddenly, headlights flashed in the distance. A car approached, honking loudly. Amara's heart leaped. Could it be her parents at last? The old woman squeezed her hand. "Remember, little one, sometimes being forgotten is the beginning of being found." The car slowed down near them. Amara squinted against the lights, hope rising within her. She didn't know that this moment would mark the beginning of a turning point in her life. The headlights grew brighter, cutting through the night like two fierce eyes. Amara stood quickly, her heart pounding. The old woman beside her steadied her trembling hand. The car screeched to a stop, dust rising into the air. The driver's door swung open, and out stepped a man in a neatly pressed shirt. He was not her father. He looked younger, with sharp eyes that flickered between Amara and the old woman. "Little girl, what are you doing out here at night?" the man asked, his voice calm but carrying an edge that made Amara uneasy. Before Amara could answer, the old woman spoke firmly. She was left behind by careless parents. "And who are you to question her at this hour?" The man gave a short laugh. "I'm just a concerned citizen. Children should not be out here alone. I can take her home." Amara froze. The thought of getting into a stranger's car frightened her more than waiting alone. The old woman's grip tightened. Her eyes narrowed. "This child will not go anywhere with you," the old woman said with authority. "If her parents care enough, they will come." The man's smile faded. For a moment, his eyes hardened with annoyance. Then he muttered, "Suit yourself," and slammed the door. The car sped away, leaving behind a trail of dust. Amara's chest rose and fell with fear. She looked at the old woman with gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered. The woman nodded. "Not every hand that offers help is safe, my child. You must learn to see beyond words and smiles." Minutes stretched on. The night grew colder. Amara's stomach growled softly. She hadn't eaten since morning. Her eyelids grew heavy, and she leaned against the old woman's arm. Meanwhile, far away in the noisy streets of the city, Amara's parents laughed loudly at a party. Dressed in fine clothes, they sipped drinks and boasted about their wealth. Not once did they think of their daughter waiting outside the school. It wasn't until the party ended and her mother reached for her phone that reality struck. "My God," she gasped. "We forgot." Her father blinked, shocked. "Forgot? How?" "We told her to wait at the gate," her mother cried. "It's almost midnight." Panic gripped them both. They rushed to the car, guilt battling with fear. Back on the roadside, the old woman suddenly looked at Amara with strange, knowing eyes. Your life is about to change, little one, she whispered softly. The world will open your parents' eyes, but it will not be without pain. Before Amara could ask what she meant, the distant roar of another car engine filled the night. This time, the familiar sound of her father's vehicle echoed closer and closer. Amara stood, heart pounding again, not with hope, but with a mix of relief and anger. The car pulled up, and her parents rushed out. Her mother embraced her tightly, weeping. Her father kept muttering, "Forgive us, forgive us." Amara clung to them, but over her mother's shoulder, she noticed the old woman had vanished. No footsteps, no basket, no sign of her at all. Had she imagined her? Or was she something more than just a passerby? The night still held its secrets. Amara's mother clutched her tightly, sobbing into her hair. "My baby, forgive us. I don't know what we were thinking." Her father tried to cover his guilt with nervous laughter. "It was just a mistake, Amara. We were delayed." But Amara's eyes were fixed on the roadside shadows where the old woman had been sitting moments before. The spot was empty now, the dust undisturbed, as if no one had ever been there. Her small voice broke the silence. "Mama, there was a woman here. She stayed with me. She gave me groundnuts. She saved me from a bad man." Both parents exchanged uneasy glances. "What woman?" her father asked sharply. "She was old, kind, and she vanished when you came." Her mother frowned. "Amara, you must have imagined it. Fear can play tricks." But Amara knew what she had seen, and the warmth of that wrinkled hand on hers was too real to deny. She said no more, though inside her heart whispered, that woman was not ordinary. The drive home was long and heavy. Her mother kept fussing, checking her arms, her face, her bag, as though trying to prove to herself that Amara was unharmed. Her father muttered about bad traffic and next time, but the words felt hollow. At home, Amara slipped into her small bed, eyes still wide open. She thought of the old woman's words. Sometimes being forgotten is the beginning of being found. The next morning, the sun rose brightly over Kizimba town. Yet, in Amara's house, the atmosphere was uneasy. Her parents avoided each other's gaze. Both were haunted by the guilt of what had happened. At breakfast, her father forced a smile. "Eat well, Amara. Today will be different." But Amara studied them carefully. "Will you come for me today?" she asked softly. Her mother placed a trembling hand on her chest. "Yes, we promise. Never again." Amara nodded, but her young heart carried doubt. Promises had been made before, and promises had been broken. Meanwhile, in the marketplace, whispers spread. A passerby claimed to have seen a girl sitting by the roadside with a mysterious old woman who looked like someone from the ancestral tales. Another said the woman disappeared into thin air when a car arrived. Superstitious tongues wagged. Some said she was a guardian spirit. Others claimed she was an ancestor watching over forgotten children. By evening, when Amara's parents pulled up to school on time for once, the gossip had already reached the teachers. They looked at her parents with a mix of pity and quiet judgment. As Amara walked out of the gate, she noticed something strange. Near the playground, resting on the same wooden bench where she had waited yesterday, lay a single roasted groundnut. Her chest tightened. She picked it up slowly. It was still warm. Her parents rushed her to the car, but Amara's eyes lingered on that bench. The old woman was gone, yet her presence lingered, unseen but deeply felt, and so the story was not finished. In fact, it was only beginning. For the vanishing guardian had left behind more than comforts. She had left a message. And sooner or later, Amara and her parents would understand it. The roasted groundnut sat in Amara's palm as the car drove away from the school. She held it tightly, as if it were treasure. Her parents did not notice, too busy arguing softly about who was more to blame for the night before at home. Amara slipped the groundnut into a small wooden box under her bed. Her grandmother had once told her that objects left by spirits carried meaning. "Pay attention to such gifts," she had said. "They are never ordinary." That night, sleep came slowly. Shadows danced on the walls, and the chirping of insects outside felt louder than usual. Then, as the moonlight filtered through her window, Amara heard its oft whispers, like voices carried by the wind. "Child of forgetting, child of remembering." Amara sat up, her heart racing. She looked around. The room was empty, yet the whispers grew stronger. Her box trembled slightly under the bed. She pulled it out and opened it. The roasted groundnut glowed faintly, pulsing like a tiny heartbeat. The whispers became clearer. "The careless will learn. The forgotten will rise," Amara gasped. Her fingers tingled with warmth as she touched the groundnut. Then, as suddenly as it began, the glow faded and silence returned. The next morning, Amara told her parents, "Mama, Papa, the old woman, she left me something. It spoke to me." Her father frowned. "Nonsense. You're imagining things." Her mother, though shaken, tried to stay calm. "Children dream strange dreams. Don't frighten yourself, Amara." But deep inside, both felt unease. For in their own childhoods, they too had heard tales of guardian spirits who punished neglectful parents and protected innocent children. Days passed, but the strange occurrences grew. At night, Amara often saw shadows of the old woman reflected on her wall, though no one stood there. Sometimes, when her parents shouted at each other, the lights flickered, and their voices faltered as if silenced by an unseen force. One evening, Amara's grandmother came to visit. She was old, her back bent with age, but her eyes still sharp. As Amara hugged her, she noticed the wooden box half hidden under the bed. "What is this, child?" Grandmother asked. Amara hesitated, then opened it. The roasted groundnut still lay there, dull yet heavy with unseen power. Grandmother's face turned pale. She whispered, "It is true. The guardian of forgotten children walks again." Her parents exchanged worried glances. "What do you mean, Mama?" her father asked nervously. The old woman sat heavily on a stool. "Long ago, there was a spirita, mother of mothers. She appeared when parents failed in their duty, when they neglected what the ancestors entrusted to them. She comforted the children, but punished those who were careless. Many thought it was just a story. But if Amara has seen her, then you two are standing at the edge of a lesson." The room grew still. Amara's mother wrung her hands. Her father tried to laugh it off, but could not hide his trembling. Amara looked at them both with wide eyes. For the first time, she realized the groundnut was not simply a gift, it was a warning. And somewhere outside, in the rustling of the trees, the whispers returned. "The careless will learn. The careless will learn." The house grew heavier after grandmother's warning. Even the air felt thick, like an unseen weight pressing on everyone's chest. Amara's parents avoided each other's eyes, but their guilt followed them like shadows. That night, as the crickets sang outside, Amara woke suddenly. A faint tapping sound came from the window. She pulled back the curtain, and there she was, the old woman. Her eyes glowed softly, her face neither cruel nor kind, only watchful. Amara's heart pounded. She whispered, "What do you want from me?" The old woman lifted a finger and pointed inside the room, not at Amara, but toward her parents' bedroom. Then she vanished into the night air like smoke. Moments later, a loud crash echoed through the house. Amara's parents screamed. She ran into their room and found them both standing in shock. Their bed had collapsed, the wooden frame splintered, though no one had touched it. On the floor lay a single roasted groundnut, her father's face drained of color. "It's her. She's here." Grandmother, who had been sleeping in the sitting room, shuffled in quickly. She picked up the groundnut, held it to her forehead, and murmured, "The test has begun." "The test?" Amara's mother whispered. "Yes," grandmother replied grimly. "She is watching how you treat what is yours to protect. You neglected Amara. Now the spirit will measure your hearts." The following day, strange trials began. At breakfast, Amara's father sat to eat his yam porridge, but each spoonful turned to sand in his mouth, dry and bitter. He spat it out, horrified. Yet, when Amara ate from the same pot, it was sweet and nourishing. That evening, Amara's mother tried to light the cooking fire. No matter how much she struck the matches, the flames refused to stay. Smoke filled the room, choking her. But when Amara stepped forward, the fire caught instantly, burning bright. Her parents grew terrified. "She favors the child," her father said in a trembling voice. "No," grandmother corrected. "She is showing you who is innocent." The spirit's presence deepened each night. Sometimes whispers filled the air. Careless, careless. Doors creaked open by themselves. Water jars tipped over with no one near. And always the roasted groundnut appeared in new places, the windowsill, the doorstep, even on Amara's pillow. One evening, Amara's parents broke down. "We are sorry," her mother sobbed, clutching Amara's hands. "We were foolish. We thought only of ourselves." Her father's voice shook. "We should have protected you. We forgot you at school. Forgive us, Amara." But Amara only stared at them. For though she loved her parents, she could feel that their apology was not enough. The spirit still lingered. That night, the old woman returned again in Amara's dream. She stood tall, her staff glowing in the moonlight. "They must prove their words," she said. "For promises are wind. Actions are truth." Amara woke with tears in her eyes. She understood now. Her parents would face a greater test soon. One that would decide not just their fate, but whether their family would ever be whole again. Outside, the wind carried the whisper once more. "The careless will learn. The careless will learn." The next morning, silence hung over the house like a heavy fog. Amara's parents had slept fitfully, haunted by strange dreams of a tall, shadowy woman who held a glowing staff. Every corner of the house seemed alive with her presence. The roasted groundnut now sat atop the kitchen table, glowing faintly like a beacon. Grandmother shuffled in, her eyes sharp and knowing. "Today they will face the choice," she whispered to Amara. "The spirit has given them the path to redemption or the price of neglect." Amara listened quietly, sensing the gravity of the moment. Her parents stood in the doorway, trembling. They glanced at the glowing nut, then at each other, guilt heavy in their posture. Suddenly, the room darkened, though the sun was high outside. A hush fell. From the shadows, the old woman appeared, her presence commanding yet calm. Her eyes locked onto Amara's parents. "You have forgotten her," she said, her voice echoing like wind through the trees. "You have ignored the child entrusted to you. You have laughed while she waited. You must now choose sacrifice for your errors or remain blind to your failings." Amara's mother fell to her knees, tears streaming. "We will do anything," she sobbed. "Anything to make it right." Her father's hands shook. "Tell us what we must do. Tell us, and we will follow." The old woman's gaze softened slightly. "Your child's heart is innocent. She bears no blame. But your hearts must be tested. You will each give a gift, not of wealth, not of possessions, but of your time, your presence, and your love. Only through action will the bond be restored." Amara's parents exchanged a glance, understanding dawning. Their mistakes had been measured not by the forgetting itself, but by the absence of effort to nurture, protect, and prioritize their child. The old woman raised her staff. Light spilled across the room, illuminating hidden corners. "Go," she commanded. "Spend the day in true devotion to her. Let her see your care, your attention, your understanding. Only then will the shadow of neglect lift." The rest of the day was unlike any other. Amara's mother abandoned chores, turning her focus entirely to Amara. She listened to her stories, laughed at her jokes, and held her hands without distraction. Her father played games with her in the courtyard, helped with schoolwork, and praised her efforts genuinely. There were no phones, no meetings, no petty disputes, just pure, attentive love. By evening, a subtle change filled the house. The air felt lighter, calmer. Amara felt warmth spread through her chest, as if the spirit itself was smiling. Outside, the wind shifted, and a whisper carried through the trees. "Careless hearts are learning. Care is being born." That night, Amara's parents knelt beside her bed. "We are sorry," her mother said, her voice steady now. "We promise to never let our carelessness harm you again." Her father held her hand. "From now on, Amara, you are our priority. Not work, not parties only. You come first." Amara's eyes glistened, but she also understood something crucial. Love is not given in words alone, is proven through actions, patience, and attention. That night, the house was filled with a quiet peace. The Spirit had tested their hearts, and the first step toward redemption had been taken. Outside, in the shadows, the old woman watched silently. Her mission was not complete, but for now, the careless had begun to learn, and the forgotten child had begun to feel truly found. The sun rose over Kazimba town, casting golden light on Amara's small home. The house, once filled with tension and fear, now buzzed with cautious hope. Yet the old woman's presence lingered, unseen but unmistakably shadow at the edges of vision, a whisper in the wind. Amara's parents awoke determined. Today they would continue proving their care. Breakfast was quiet but deliberate. No hurried meals, no distracted glances at phones. Her father carefully prepared Amara's favorite porridge, stirring it with patience. Her mother poured fresh juice, smiling warmly as she placed it in front of her daughter. Amara noticed the change immediately. Their eyes met hers with genuine focus, not fleeting attention. She smiled, though a part of her remained cautious. She had seen promises broken before. Grandmother watched from the corner, nodding subtly. The spirit's test is not for one day only, she murmured. Consistency is the mirror of true care. Actions today are meaningless if tomorrow forgets the child again. By midday, Amara's parents were exhausted but determined. They helped her with schoolwork, guided her in reading, and even joined her outside to play. They laughed together, not perfunctorily, but genuinely. Every smile, every gentle correction, every patient explanation was a step toward earning back trust. At the edge of the courtyard, the wind stirred, carrying a soft rustle of leaves. Amara's eyes widened. A faint shadow of the old woman appeared for a brief moment, watching, testing. Her staff glowed faintly, casting eerie yet beautiful patterns on the ground. "See, little one," grandmother whispered. "She tests not your parents' words, but their resolve. True care is proven not in fear, but in unwavering action." Hours passed. As evening approached, a minor quarrel erupted. Mara accidentally spilled her father's freshly poured drink. Her parents froze, fear crossing their faces, as if expecting the world to crumble. But instead of anger, her father gently cleaned up the mess. Her mother helped, calmly assuring her, "It's all right, Amara. Mistakes happen. We are here for you." The old woman's figure appeared again, briefly, in the fading light. She nodded slightly, satisfied. The parents had passed a critical part of the test, learning that care is not just about presence, but patience, forgiveness, and empathy. Later that night, as Amara slept, the glow of the roasted groundnut returned, pulsating softly on the bedside table. A whisper carried through the room. Consistency is the path. Care must endure beyond fear, beyond guilt, beyond momentary attention. Only then is the child truly found. Her parents knelt beside the glowing nut, hands together, whispering promises not just of attention, but of long-term devotion. They did not just say it, they felt it. The weight of the spirit's expectation pressed upon them, but they no longer resisted. They embraced the lesson. Outside, the old woman's shadow lingered one last time before fading completely into the night. The first two tests were passed, acknowledgement of neglect and demonstration of love. What remained was the final, ultimate test, one that would demand not just care and patience, but courage and sacrifice. Amara, sensing the shift, turned in her sleep with a soft smile. For the first time, she felt safe, not just tonight, but with hope for every tomorrow. Night had fallen over Kazimba town, and a heavy silence blanketed Amara's home. The earlier tests had softened her parents' hearts, yet a lingering fear remained. They knew the final trial was coming. The old woman's presence felt closer than ever, her aura almost tangible, filling every corner with quiet authority. Amara slept peacefully, unaware of the invisible tension that hovered above her. The roasted groundnut glowed faintly on the bedside table, pulsing like a heartbeat, as if it carried the spirit's anticipation. Suddenly, the lights flickered. Shadows twisted across the walls. The old woman appeared, taller and more luminous than before. Her voice echoed in the room, calm yet commanding. "The final test is not one of words, not one of gestures, but of sacrifice. What are you willing to give to prove your care is true?" Her parents froze. Amara's mother grasped her hands together, whispering, "Anything, anything at all." Her father's lips trembled, voice raw with fear and resolve. Tell us what to do." The spirit raised her staff. Light poured from its tip, illuminating the room with ghostly brilliance. "To reclaim the trust of the forgotten, you must relinquish what is most precious to you, not money, not pride, but time and comfort. You must place Amara above all else, without hesitation. Only then will your hearts be free of neglect." The parents exchanged a glance. They understood the world would tempt them. Their work and ambitions would call, but for the next 7 days, they were to dedicate every moment to their child. No distractions, no excuses. The moment they accepted, a profound change filled the room. The pulsing groundnut glowed brighter, then gently dimmed, as if the spirit had acknowledged their willingness. The old woman's figure softened, becoming less shadow and more light. "Actions, not words, will cement your redemption," she said. "The careless will learn, but only if they choose love over self. Guard her, nurture her, and you shall be guided to true parenthood." The next morning, the parents implemented their pact. They cooked, cleaned, played, and studied with Amara. Every task became an act of devotion. For once, their lives revolved entirely around her safety, happiness, and learning. Each day, their love grew stronger, rooted not in fear of the spirit, but in genuine care and understanding. Amara noticed the difference. She laughed freely, learned eagerly, and slept peacefully. She no longer feared being forgotten, for her parents' eyes, hands, and hearts were entirely present by the end of the week. The old woman appeared one last time at the threshold of the courtyard. Her staff shimmered softly in the morning sun. "The final trial is complete," she whispered. "The careless have learned. The forgotten is found." Then she vanished, leaving only the warm breeze and the soft rustle of leaves as her farewell. Amara's parents fell to their knees in gratitude, finally understanding the weight of neglect they had carried for so long. They had been tested, not punished. They had been shown that love is measured in attention, sacrifice, and consistency. Outside, the wind whispered once more, "The careless will learn. The forgotten will rise." And for the first time, the house was filled with not just light, but understanding, a family reborn from the trials of neglect and the guidance of a mystical guardian. Morning sunlight streamed through the windows of Amara's home, illuminating a house transformed. The laughter of a child echoed freely, no longer tinged with fear or longing. Amara ran into her parents' arms, giggling as they lifted her up, spinning her in joyful circles. For the first time, her parents truly understood the weight of their past negligence. Their lives, once consumed by ambition and distraction, were now centered entirely on their daughter's well-being. Every glance, every touch, every word was intentional, a testament to the lessons they had learned. Grandmother watched from the doorway, a gentle smile on her face. "The spirit has departed," she said softly. "Her work is done. You have learned what many never do, that love is proven through attention, consistency, and sacrifice." Amara's mother knelt beside her, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. "We will never forget you again, Amara. You are our heart, our world," her father added, voice steady and warm, "and we will show it every day, not just in words, but in every action. We are here for you, always." The roasted groundnut, once glowing with mystical energy, now rested quietly on the tabula, symbol of the trials faced and the lessons learned. Amara held it in her small hands, smiling. She knew it had carried more than magic. It had carried wisdom, guiding her parents to a love that would endure. Outside, the town carried on, unaware of the invisible guardian who had shaped a family's destiny. But within the home, peace reigned. The shadows of fear, neglect, and carelessness had lifted, replaced by a deep, unwavering bond as days turned into weeks. Amara noticed subtle signs of the spirit's lingering presence, a gentle breeze that seemed to whisper encouragement, leaves dancing in the sunlight as if celebrating, and the occasional faint glow of the groundnut in moments of family joy. She never feared these signs. Instead, she felt comforted, reassured that love and care had been restored. Her parents, too, changed in ways more profound than they realized. They became patient listeners, mindful guides, and protectors who prioritized their child's happiness above all else. Friends and neighbors began to notice the transformation, and the story of the guardian of the forgotten child quietly spread through whispers, an African tale of caution, magic, and redemption. One evening, as the family sat together watching the sun dip below the horizon, Amara's mother turned to her daughter. "Do you remember the woman who watched over you that night?" she asked gently. Amara nodded, smiling. "I felt her, Mama. She made sure we learned to love properly," her father added, "and we will honor her lesson for the rest of our lives. You are our treasure, Amara, and we will never take you for granted again." In the distance, a soft wind rustled the trees, carrying the faintest whisper. "The careless have learned. The forgotten are found." Amara looked out the window, a quiet smile on her face. She no longer feared being forgotten. She had been seen, protected, and loved. And in that love, her family had been reborn. The house glowed warmly in the fading light, a sanctuary of trust, care, and unwavering devotion. The story of neglect had ended, and the tale of redemption had begun, a timeless lesson carried through whispers, winds, and the heart of a little girl who would never be forgotten again.